All right, let's just dive right into this. Welcome back, focused learners. Have you ever noticed how incredibly easy it is to stick to a plan when you're super fired up, and then how quickly that exact same plan just completely falls apart the second you get tired? Today, we are undertaking a definitive upgrade to your mental operating system. We're going to move away from those default reactions and install some disciplined control. Think of this explainer as your direct training manual. We're drawing from some really incredible source material that strips away all the fluff, looking exactly at how you can train your mind to win, literally no matter what the situation is.
So here's our syllabus for today's mental upgrade. We've broken this down systematically. We're going to cover 1. The myth of motivation. 2. Winning the inner game. 3. Mastering the pressure test. 4. Commanding the chaos. And finally, 5. The power of consistency.
Let's jump straight into part 1, the myth of motivation.
Okay, so if you've been relying on fleeting motivation and emotional decision-making to get things done, well, you're basically running a fundamentally buggy program. By default, the untrained mind just reacts automatically. I mean, think about the last time you got a deeply frustrating email at work. The immediate, almost physical urge is to just fire back defensively right in that exact moment, right? That is your mind simply handing the steering wheel completely over to your emotions and external circumstances. But the trained mind operates on an entirely different protocol. It pauses, it observes the situation, and most importantly, it chooses deliberate responses. The trained mind essentially slows the moment down, just enough for a choice to actually exist.
Look at this core thesis.
Motivation fades, emotion changes, but training rewires who you are under pressure. Motivation is honestly just a psychological sugar rush. It feels amazing, sure, but it burns out incredibly fast. You wouldn't expect to build physical strength by lifting a heavy weight exactly one time, right? And you definitely don't build mental control by getting hyped up once. You absolutely have to fundamentally shift your perspective away from chasing those temporary feelings and instead fully embrace structured, intentional repetition.
Which brings us to phase 2, winning the inner game. This is where we install the absolute foundation of internal control. Because here is the undeniable truth from our source material. Before you lose a situation externally, you almost always lose it internally first. And the crucial point here is exactly how we define discipline. It's removing choice from moments where choice weakens you. Think of someone like Steve Jobs wearing the exact same outfit every single day. It wasn't about fashion at all. It was about removing a low-level choice to preserve mental energy for what actually mattered. We need to completely reframe discipline here. It's not a punishment. It's not about forcing yourself to suffer. It's actually an automated standard. When you remove that exhausting internal debate of, do I really feel like doing this today? You completely eliminate friction and you protect your finite energy. And this brings us to a massively important paradigm shift. Feelings are information, not instruction. If your actions depend purely on how you feel, like, say, hitting the snooze button just because the bed is incredibly warm and cozy, your life is going to be inconsistent by default. You absolutely have to firmly separate emotion from execution. Feelings simply tell you what's happening internally. They tell you that you're tired. They're just data, right? They do not instruct you to abandon the mission. Let discipline lead instead. That foundational control sets us up perfectly for part 3. Mastering the pressure test. Now, we really need to stop looking at pressure as something that creates weakness. Pressure doesn't create weakness, it reveals it. It's a stress test that exposes your current level of mental training. Most people think being calm is just this lucky genetic trait or a fixed personality type, but it's really not. Calm is defined here as a trained skill built through repeated exposure, not a fixed personality trait. You don't force calm, you create the conditions for it, physically and mentally. Slow your breath, lower your shoulders. You have to send a physical signal to the mind that you're not actually in danger, because your brain is constantly monitoring your body, right? If your breathing is slow and steady, your brain essentially goes, okay, no lion chasing us, and the panic naturally subsides. It literally works from the outside in.
So what is the actual protocol here? It's a simple, though definitely challenging, 3-step sequence you need to run when pressure hits. Step 1, notice the trigger. Literally feel your heart rate spike or your jaw clench. Step 2, pause and observe. Step 3, choose your response. Immediate, unthinking reactions collapse the space between an event and your action. But taking that simple, sometimes uncomfortable pause, that creates space. And right in that space, that's where you restore your leverage and take your power back.
I want you to burn this single question into your mind. What would a controlled response look like right now? The next time you feel that sudden, overwhelming urge to just lash out or over-explain yourself or completely panic, I want you to deploy this exact pattern interrupt. Ask yourself this question to literally force your mind to analyze its current state and rapidly pivot back to composure. Now, what happens when the pressure isn't just a fleeting moment, but an entirely chaotic environment? That's part 4, commanding the chaos. The source points out something really fascinating. Chaos outside of you doesn't actually destroy outcomes. Confusion destroys outcomes, but only when that external chaos is allowed to enter your mind. So how do we keep the chaos out? Well, here is how a trained mind operates in chaos. Think of a seasoned emergency room doctor. They don't speed up when things go crazy. They do the exact opposite. They reduce inputs. They aggressively protect finite attention. They eliminate non-essential noise. And they operate sequentially, meaning strictly one task at a time. When an untrained mind feels overwhelmed, it tries to multitask and rush. But a trained mind, it reduces cognitive load to make clean, accurate decisions while everyone else is panicking. To achieve that level of clarity, you have to audit your internal language. Look at the difference here. Emotional language generalizes and dramatizes. I always mess this up, or this is totally impossible. But instructional language, it's incredibly precise and directive. This is complex, break it down, or focus on the next step. Your self-talk isn't just some color commentary on a sports broadcast. It's the direct code programming your nervous system. If your language is dramatic, your physical reality and thinking become dramatic. You need to shift immediately to instructional language. All right, let's move to our final phase, part 5, the power of consistency. This right here is the marathon. This is about mental endurance and the absolute non-negotiable necessity of showing up when the work gets boring, slow, or just plain uncomfortable. Mental endurance isn't about high-octane intensity. It's about staying power. As it says here, it's trained by staying present inside mild discomfort without immediately escaping. Think about it. The modern world basically trains us to seek instant relief, right? Like we grab our smartphones the absolute second we feel even a hint of boredom in an elevator. But quitting early or constantly seeking distraction actually teaches the mind that effort is dangerous. Staying in that mild discomfort, even just for a little bit longer, is exactly what builds unbreakable long-term resilience. And here is a truth you simply cannot escape. You don't rise to your potential, you fall to your level of discipline. Under pressure, when you're completely exhausted and everything is going wrong, you are not going to magically perform at your absolute best. No way. You will default to whatever standards you have consistently automated on your most average days. Schedule and standards beat mood every single time. Which brings us to the ultimate summary of this explainer, the stark contrast between reactors and winners. Reactors seek comfort. They constantly wait for the perfect mood or motivation, and they are endlessly negotiating with themselves about whether to actually do the work. Winners, on the other hand, they are driven by their identity. They stay in control, and they show up no matter what. It's not about being heroic. It's about proving that ordinary actions, repeated reliably, produce extraordinary stability. So we'll end our explainer with this one stark question. The next time you face pressure, the next time motivation completely vanishes and the discomfort sets in, will you react or will you remain in control? Look, you can't control every situation, but you always control your response. Choose the pause. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, Focus Learners. Now go apply it.